Hello, this is Coach Wilson, and this is Chapter 5, Section 1. Today we're going to be talking about the legislative branch and the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, first of all, we want to talk about organization. All right, during the Constitution's ratification and trying to figure out how our government was going to actually be set up, they offered up a couple of different plans of how they may, form the government, whether it would be equal representation like the Articles of Confederation had been, where every state had the same power, or would it be based on population, where the more people you had, the more votes, the more power you had as a state. And so what they decided to come up with was this great compromise, which combined the two plans proposed, and it combined the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan. Okay, and it made two houses of Congress, the first being the House of Representatives, and its representatives are based on population, meaning the higher the population, the more representatives that state carries. In the Senate, however, it's two senators for each state, okay? So it's equal representation. And that was the same as it was in the New Jersey plan, as it was based on equal representation. All right, so we have a bicameral system. You'll hear that term as we continue, okay? But bicameral means two-house system, okay? Remember, like a bicycle has two wheels. Okay? A unicycle only has one. Now, House of Representatives, representations based on each state population. For example, North Carolina's got 13 representatives, California has 53, and Texas has 36. Their populations are much larger than North Carolina's. It makes sense as to why theirs is much higher. Now, there are three requirements to be a representative, and that is at least 25 years old. You must be a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years, and you must be a legal resident of the state that you represent. All right, so no naturalization requirement there where you were born in the United States. You just must be a citizen for at least 7 years. Okay, now when we talk about the House terms, there are 2-year terms. However, there's unlimited terms, meaning there are no term limitations. Okay, and term limitations are the idea that legislatures should only be allowed a maximum number of years in office in order to encourage more involvement in the government. And there are quite a few people, especially in today's society, that feel like there should be term limits. If you think about someone who is 85 years old that's still a sitting representative, think about how much different society is today versus when they were younger and really involved in society. So it's an idea to keep the government balanced and trying to keep our government in a good place. All right, there are 435 total members. There is a fixed total of how many representatives we have in Congress. Now, the way that they determine House membership is by the census. We talked about that a little bit back when we were talking about the census. And it determines the number from each state because it determines the population, which in turn determines the number. We have what we call apportionment, which is a term that refers to the number of representatives assigned to a state based upon its population. Okay, that's what we're talking about. That's derived from the census. However, we also have what we call gerrymandering, which is drawing a district boundary in an odd-shaped manner in order to benefit one political party over another. So when we vote for these representatives, we essentially have, for example, North Carolina has 13 representatives, we have 13 districts. And they use this gerrymandering where basically they draw a line in a really odd way so that, maybe if they draw it this way, they'll get more Republican votes. Or if it's drawn this way, they'll get more Democrat votes. Okay, so that's what gerrymandering does, is it gets one political party in over another, okay? But each member represents one certain district. So if you look in this view, okay, we have on the right, the original gerrymandering, imagine that all those places you see are counties. Well, why would it make sense to draw from Salisbury all the way down into Chelsea, okay, that big loop, versus just making it in a circle and making 13 even districts and whoever wins, wins. Gerrymandering is basically a form of tampering by the government, okay? The representatives that are elected from that district represent their constituents or citizens, all right? So if you ever heard the word constituents, the people that they represent. Now, here's a look at North Carolina's district. Okay, as you can see, they've done away with some gerrymandering, but like they're in Raleigh, if you look at how Raleigh's set up, that's not maybe necessarily the best way. You can see here with number 3, our 3rd district, Okay, it's kind of gerrymandered quite a bit. So is District 1 as well. All right. Now, this is a look at kind of an even balanced. I think this is more updated to what our current situation is, but you can see where there's still some gerrymandering going on here and there. Really odd, even in Catawba County there, we're getting a little bit into District 11. All of this is done by the government, okay, and they try to set it up in a way that favors them a lot of times, okay. Here we have our representatives, okay. You can see a picture of them standing here at the Capitol, okay. And then we have our congressional districts across the country. Guys, you can see there's a lot of weird districting that goes on with these congressional districts. Now, getting into the Senate, it's based on every state being equal. There are 3 requirements. You must be at least 30 years of age. You must be a citizen for at least 9 years and a legal resident of the state that you represent. Okay, senators are held to 6-year terms, and they can run unlimited. Okay, so they can continue to run for office as much as they want. For example, Strom Thurmond was in office from 1956 until 2003, and he was in office when he was 100 years old. So it kind of goes to show you there that there ought to be term limits. There are 100 members, being that there are 50 states and there's 2 from each state. Now, talking about Senate membership, there's 100 members, 2 from each state, and each represents the whole state. They do not represent districts. So when you're voting for senator, you're voting for someone to represent the entire state, not voting for someone to only represent your district, as we showed there with the state map. All right, congressional benefits. Now, this is something that is controversial. Okay, salary, somewhere around about $174,000 a year. Budgets for their staff, office space at the Capitol where they can, have their own office, and then franking privileges, which is a right of a congressman to send job-related mail without postage. Okay, so they essentially can mail things without having to pay any kind of fee or whatever, which means that if they want to send things out for, the state or things that are going on or like things that they're trying to pass or they're trying to get citizen support, as long as it's job related, they do not have to pay postage. All right. All right. Now they also have what you call as limited immunity. They can't be arrested during a meeting of Congress. Okay. There are some limitations, however. They can be removed from Congress, which we call expulsion. And then we also have censure, which is a formal vote of disapproval of a legislature's conduct. Okay, so those are some ways that they can try to limit the power of a congressman or congresswoman, but they do have their own limitations, just like the government has, where they can be removed from office. Okay. All right, guys, I know I went through that really quickly, but a lot of information in there. I just want to kind of give you the basics. Make sure you understand the simpler parts. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, I'll talk to you soon.